Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our show. Today we have a very exciting show to present to you today. It is talking about, the exact title was
Misconceptions of Islam.
Misconceptions of Islam. Today we'll have as your host Brother Benjamin Shabazz and as our co-host Brother Naeem Sharif.
Oh, I'm the co-host this time.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam. I never know if I'm the co-host or the guest or the executive producer.
So we're going to open up asking Allah to guide us and to do this show under His guidance and going forward in His name. So please join us for a small Bismillah. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. With the name of Allah, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Ameen.
Ameen.
So, misconceptions of Islam. Some of the things I know we were discussing was the contributions that Islam, or Al-Islam, I should say more properly, Al-Islam, has made to the betterment and the advancement of human beings. And I know that one of the things is in science.
Right.
Mathematics, astronomy, health, optics. That's just a few to mention. But I know that in mathematics, for example, the term algebra, is a contribution. The whole concept of algebra is a contribution for the advancement of humanity. And a lot of times some of the contributions are not given in the correct context because they're said that, well, Muslims did this and Muslims did that, but a lot of things Muslims did, they took some of the existing sciences, studied them, and then expanded on them.
Okay.
And one of those things, which is we use it every day and pay little or no attention, is the zero.
The zero.
The zero being put into mathematics, the zero. Because before, the literal 1, 2, 3, 4, we were counting with letters called the Roman numerals. Now, can you imagine computing space flight with Roman numerals?
And yeah, and just take it a little bit simpler. You know how some of the older TV programs that were in the 70s and maybe in the 80s or whatever, they have the Roman numerals at the bottom to what year it was. You'd be trying to get a piece of paper to figure out what year was this. Now you just click on guide and it'll tell you what year it was. But before it's like MMC. Yeah. So like you said, trying to get to the moon with that would be quite difficult.
Yeah. So the misconception, to counter that, I should say, the misconception is that Muslims were just warmongers.
Right.
And had no appreciation for the nicer things in life or the finer things in life. Just warmongers going around conquering people, beheading people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So then the other thing I wanted to add to that is that a lot of times people say things about what can happen, what's the potential of something happening in the future. But it's not happening now, but we're working towards that. And people have been working towards some things for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, but it's a motivation. Like you're sitting in the carriage and they had the stick out there with the carrot on it in front of the horse.
Right.
And he's pulling the carriage, which is beneficial to you and I as the rider, but his goal is to get that carrot. You see, so a lot of that philosophy is used a lot in certain things, especially in religion. There's going to be better life when you die or better here. But we have, as Muslims, we actually have an example of applying Islam in your life, an example of a heaven on earth. And we have a lot of examples, but one example that's just outstanding is what they call Moorish Spain, when Spain was ruled by the Moors, who were Muslims. And it was Muslims, Christians, and Jews who lived peace and harmony and cooperation for 800 years.
Wow. Like I said, I know a lot of people don't know about that.
800 years. How old is America?
It's not quite 300 years.
Yeah, see? And so we boast about how America, you know, is the greatest civilization and blah, 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 blah. But Muslims can really, in reality, talk about an accomplishment that took place in what they call Moorish Spain or Andalusia, where the Muslims and Jews and Christians lived in harmony. And they made great advancements in science, astronomy, and mathematics, and health, and things of that nature, all working together. So this is something that people can study. This is not propaganda or an imaginary tale that's being told. This is something that people can study.
I remember that. What some of the cities, Cordoba,
Right,
Seville.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's move on.
Okay. Well, since we're talking about education, we always heard about Timbuktu.
Right,
You know, it's a modest looking place, but they really valued books. And like you said, they took some of the earlier works and they upgraded them and then put it into Arabic to preserve these different works of, you know, by different people beforehand. And it just shows you the dedication to education. And this was something Prophet Muhammad pushed. You know, even when they were at war, they would have the prisoners said, if you teach, you teach 10 people, Muslims to read, you can go free.
exactly.
You know, so there's this thing where these different groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIL and all these, you know, they propagate something that is just totally foreign to the religion because they want to burn books and you know just destroy everything. If it's not up to their liking, let's destroy it.
Well, what's that saying? If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it is a duck. So let's look at what these people that claim to be Muslims are doing. What they're actually doing has nothing to do with Islam. What they're actually doing has more to do with people who hate Islam. So you could really say that these people that have these names are not really Muslims, but masquerading as Muslims to destroy not only the image of Islam, but even some of the artifacts of Islam. And that's how I see it. You know, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck. So these people, and then people that don't know, the general population that don't know anything about Islam at all, and hear these people jump up and say, I'm a Muslim, and waving a Muslim flag, but doing things that are absolutely opposed to the concept of really any religion. You know, that's the work of the devil.
There you go.
That's the work of the devil.
There you go.
So I remember we was talking earlier about misconceptions in terms of, say, the Muslims, that Allah is a moon god.
Yeah, I've heard just one guy years ago. Allah was a moon god, and then also another, as you were saying earlier, somebody was saying that Allah was the sun god, and so forth and so on. So are there some references in the Quran that will speak about this?
Yeah, we were looking this up to make this point so that our viewing audience can see that this is not something that we're talking. This is something that's coming out of the book. And we're going to give you the name of the chapter, and the verse of the chapter.
Okay.
And it's chapter 41. And it's verse 37.
Okay.
So that's chapter 41 and verse 37 in the glorious Quran. Chapter 41 and verse 37. I'm saying it over and over so people can go write this down.
Okay.
So they can take it to those people who are telling them that Allah is a moon god. And then they can read it from the book themselves and say, well, it says right here that's not true.
Okay.
So now this is what the verse says. 37. Among his signs are the night and the day, the sun and the moon. Adore not the sun and the moon, but adore Allah who created them. If it is him you wish to serve. Now, one more time.
Yeah, one more time.
Among his signs are the night and the day, and the sun and the moon. Adore not the sun and the moon, but adore Allah who created them, if it is him you wish to serve.
Well, that was plain and simple.
So let's read the footnote.
Okay.
Night and day are opposites, and yet by the alchemy of Allah they can both subserve the purpose of human good, because the night can give rest while the day can promote activity. The sun and the moon are similarly complementary. So in moral and spiritual affairs, seeming opposites may, by Allah's alchemy, be made to subserve the purposes of good. They are but instruments. Allah is the cause. Adore Allah and not the things which He has created. Use the things which He created, but do not adore them. So that's the footnote.
That's the footnote.
So I hope that made that point clear. And anyone who is going to come up against somebody screaming, Allah is the sun God, Allah is the moon God, Allah, you guys are worshiping the moon and sun. Chapter 41, verse 37 in the Quran. 41:37. It's plain as day, and the footnote even backs it up even more.
All right. Very good. Let's go to, there's a lot of topics on this. Slavery in Africa by Muslims. So I've heard different things, and I'm sure you have too, but what is your whole understanding about that?
Well, you know, I think that it is a crime, really, to bring that up in a way that wants to make the comparison as if slavery in Islam was like slavery under European domination and colonization.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because slavery is really shouldn't be a word. The word shouldn't be used like that. It should be servitude, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because during the times of those ancient days, so to speak, people would seek out servitude. They would seek out people that they wanted to serve, and devote themselves to those people 100%. You know, be the caretaker of the yards, to watch their kids or whatever. But it was an honorable position almost.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can intermingle servitude and slavery so easily. You know, this is my slave, you see. So how Muhammad got rid of slavery, Allah instructed him that if you have a slave, you have to feed him the food that you eat. If you have a slave, he must wear the same quality of clothes that you wear. If you have a slave, you have to educate him. Mm-hmm. At any point in time that he wants to bargain for his freedom, you have to give it to him. So I remember the time when they were talking about this, one of the slave owners, you know, he said, what the hell do I need a slave for? So I remember Imam Muhammad Muhammad explaining how Allah eradicated slavery without removing the name.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, he went into the nuts and bolts of it and reformed that.
Okay.
And so what they say, it's all in the details,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So, but Imam was saying that to boldly go in
Mm-hmm.
and remove the institution of slavery
Right.
would have caused too many problems. You know, so you keep the institution, but these are the new rules you're going to go by.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very, in other words, it was through wisdom
Uh-huh.
that slavery was really eradicated.
Mm-hmm.
So now when we come into modern days and we look at European slavery and servitude and domination and oppression and colonialism, we automatically have a different understanding of slavery. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about humiliating and delegitimizing whole races of people.
Right.
And then boom, you want to say, well, the African had slaves too, you know. So it was a whole different situation. It was a whole, tribes would fight, and the victors would you know, take the losers and put them to work for them and call it slavery.
Right.
You see? So then they say, well, you know, you Africans, y'all sold yourself into slavery, so don't blame us white folks, you know. But it's kind of like telling somebody, come on to my house and have a party. And then once they get there, you know, everybody's smoking, and you think everybody's smoking cigarettes or whatever. And they come up to you and say, this is a little party treat, you know, but it's an addictive substance. You know, it's cocaine or some other addictive substance.
Right,
you know?
right.
And then you smoking like everybody else, but now your life is ruined because you're a drug addict now when you go back home to your family. Then they say, well, who's to blame? You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So they're gonna make you to blame for it when you was just doing what everybody else was doing. And so if you selling people like you sold them before, but now you selling them to people who are going to take them to another land where they have no connection to their homeland, no connection to their language, no connection to their religion, no connection to their flag. And then you see what I'm saying? And
Right.
you're going to beat them and put them in chains. And they can't even imagine anything like that. So you can't blame them. They had no idea what was going on. So you know, it's all, everything is relevant here.
Right, right. On that note, and just quickly, isn't there a passage in the Quran? Because they say, well, you know, so there are some people who want to make people Muslim. You better be a Muslim, or else I'm going to kill you, or I'm whatever. Doesn't the Quran say there's no compulsion in religion?
There's no compulsion in religion. And it wouldn't be fair if somebody goes around saying, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, but they were forced into it. They haven't made that decision with their heart,
Right.
and their soul, and their mind. So these are falsehoods put out there to turn people away, turn what they call the inquiring minds,
Okay.
turn them away. Well, I don't want no part of that.
Right.
You see. But there's a reason for all of this that we're talking about, all this negative misconceptions of Islam, because Islam does not promote the self-destruction of people, self-destruction in the society. So that means drugs, alcohol, gambling. All these things are self-destructive things. Eating the bad foods, self-destructive, right? Islam doesn't promote self-destruction, doesn't promote destruction of any kind. It promotes promotion of the good qualities of humanity. But look how much money people are making off of self-destruction.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Big time.
And that's one of the reasons why they're trying to put this negative propaganda out about Islam. Because automatically the Muslim becomes a Muslim, gonna stop drinking, smoking,
Okay.
using
Gambling.
drugs, gambling, and just self-abuse. You know, eating that terrible bad foods. You see, and people are making billions of dollars off of these industries. So they don't want Islam to have any kind of positive traction because it's going to cut into their pocketbook.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. That's why it's been. That's why the misconception is pumped out daily. You know, you get 100 stories, you'll be lucky to get one positive story about, you know, our Islam or anything. Let's talk about the hijab. You know, because that always comes up, you know, in different. You look at things on TV and so forth about the hijab and, you know, the significance, and does a woman have to wear it? Does she have to wear it all the time? Is it just only definitely required when they go to Jumu'ah prayer or something like that? Care to share on that?
That's an interesting topic, and it's very wide parameter to deal with the hijab. But so rather than get into all of those little small niceties, let's get into the bottom line.
Thank you.
Of the human body and the effect of the female human body has on the society. You know, a wise man told me one time, he said, you go into a society and you can tell whether it's going forward or going backwards by the way that people dress. Say the moving forward means the people put on clothes. Moving backwards, the less clothes that they have on. You see, and then the other thing is also the clothes that the women wear. You know, that's another thing in the society that you can tell which way it's going. But the woman's body is designed by God to have a sexual allure to it. You know, and so the sexual attraction of a woman should be something that she reserves for the man that she chooses to be her lifelong partner. So that's why you see the women, they cover themselves. They cover themselves.